Thierry Legault is one of the best astrophotographers in the world. He's joining us from the suburbs of Paris. He has traveled all over the planet, capturing some of the most elusive objects in the solar system, many of which only go past in a few seconds, so you have a very limited amount of time to get it. He's known for many submissions to Astronomy Picture of the Day, as well as images of the ISS, eclipses, transits, and extreme lengths he'll go to capture just about every unusual and difficult astrophotography image. Thierry Legault is at the top of his game, and we're happy to have him. Take it away.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your welcome. First of all, I have to say that all the images you have shown just before are really amazing, and really, I'm sincere. It's congratulations. They are very, very, very nice. And probably I will not show any of mine because it's not as good as yours. So goodbye and okay. No, I'm very happy to be with you. Of course, I would be even happier to be with you side by side, giving a lecture in front of you. But you know, we cannot travel. If we could travel, I would probably go to see the next lunar eclipse in a few days, next week. I would probably have gone to perhaps Australia or Hawaii or some places like that, but we cannot travel, so it's I will miss it, unfortunately. So I will give you, I will tell you some stories about a few images or videos I have taken during those years. I have started digital imaging in 1993, so almost 30 years now. So I have had the occasion to take some pictures with some success, and also some mistakes and fighting with, as you know, fighting with clouds and bad seeing. So I will not tell stories about everything I missed, because we could spend all night long telling stories about the clouds coming or bad seeing. I will tell you some successful stories about the images. So don't hesitate to make signs if you don't understand my lovely English, and if you have any question, I will try to answer. First, I have to say that, as you said, I live in the suburbs of Paris, and in this area of Europe, the weather is not good generally. I try to remember the last time we had a clear, full clear night. Perhaps it was 1 month ago or something. Currently, the weather is quite terrible. We have rain every day, a little bit of sun, but also rain. And so to get some picture of events, I have to travel. And I like to travel, so I can join kind of tourism and astronomy. And I will tell you some stories about the images I have taken where I needed to travel, and where we will go back in time. So the last one I took, I will. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Back in time, the last event I've been able to take was the famous conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. I'm sure that all of you observed it, or try to observe, depending on the weather, on December 20, 21 or 22. So as you know, we could observe this conjunction from anywhere in the world, but as usual, let's say, the north of France was cloudy. Almost all France was cloudy. So I put my 8-inch refractor in the van and drove to south of France, southwest first for on December 20th. So I went to the border of Spain, and I got clear sky, but terrible seeing. The planets were completely distorted, and I could barely see the clouds on Jupiter. So for the next night, I drove to southeast of France, to the border of Italy, and it was the closest approach. It was on December 21st, and it was cloudy. Okay, so I waited for the next day, 22nd, for the same area, and fortunately, the sky was clear, and I took the picture you see currently, I hope, of Jupiter and Saturn with the 4 moons and the red spot on Jupiter, and I would say that less than 1 hour after this shot, taken with again the 8-inch refractor and a ZWO camera, video camera, planetary camera, I was in the fog. So it was almost missed again, but okay, I got it. I had to drive in 3 days. I drove about 2,000 kilometers to get it. But you know, it's one in a life event, such event. I'm sure all of you have seen it, or
Yeah.
almost all. Yes. It was so amazing to see those 2 planets together in the eyepiece. It looks unreal, really. So it's I would have really very sad to miss it.
It's fantastic.
Okay. Another one, because I saw the picture with the plane and the moon, and so this is a picture I took in 2017. I travel a lot for my job too, and fortunately I had a mission in close to New York, and it was the moment of the full moon. And fortunately, I had the full moon visible through thick clouds, high clouds. So I could take this picture in a one shot, because the clouds dim the light of the moon enough to get the moon and the buildings in the same shot. So I prepared it. I went to the other side of the Hudson River, and running along the bank to get to be in the right place at the right moment. I was not alone. There were two other photographers also running along the river to have the moon align with the building. So I love also to take this kind of shot. I insist, because this is not a photo montage. It's one shot only, and I never do photo montage. It's something, it's forbidden for me. So because you know this represents an event and a moment and an emotion, and making an assembly of photo taken at different moments makes no sense to me, because there was no emotion, no scene, no event to see, and nothing to share. So of course, everything you will see is not an assembly of photo. Okay. So back in time.
Excuse me, Thierry, before you leave that image, where were you standing to get that? Were you in Hoboken?
I was in the I think I was in west of Empire State Building. So the moon was rising. It was in the evening, and I was just on the other side of the Hudson River.
And so
I
you don't know
don't
the
remember.
town where you're in Jersey City, Weehawken, etc. You don't know the name of the town. Just curious.
Yeah.
Liberty State Park.
Yes,
Oh, he's Liberty
probably.
State Park?
I don't remember exactly the place. There was the street and some buildings and shops behind me. But
okay.
I don't. Yes, that was I was west because it was moonrise at moonrise. Yes, yeah, that's it. Okay, so earlier this okay, I will use it a bit earlier in October and November. I had the opportunity to go to the south of France again in the French Pyrenees at the Pic du Midi Observatory with other astronomers and to take picture of Mars because, as you know too, there was the very interesting opposition of Mars this time. It was a good, very good size and good altitude for northern hemisphere, so we could not miss it. And so we went to the Pic du Midi Observatory twice, one in October and second mission in November. Despite the lockdown, we went to the observatory just the day of the second lockdown in France. So we were almost alone in the observatory because there were no visitors. There are a lot of visitors every day in normal situation, but we had all the observatory for us. We were able to take photos of Mars, take picture of Mars on different days, and showing all the surface of Mars, and then we were able to make a planisphere of Mars, full planisphere of Mars. Yeah, you can see hopefully on the screen. Okay, can you see it? Is it okay for you? Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And so it was taken with the 1 meter telescope. It's an quite old telescope. It's a telescope built in the 60s, and you have here stereo pairs. So if you look at those stereo pairs crossing the eyes, you will see the globe of Mars in 3D. And rotating, because we have the full globe of Mars on the planisphere, so we could make a series of globes and in rotation, showing that. So some people can see the 3D crossing the eyes, and some other people can see the 3D with parallel technique, with the looking at the left eye for the left image and the right eye for the right image. So it depends. So now for the moment, you have to cross the eyes, if you can do it, and just in a few seconds, you will have the parallel technique. Okay, now you have the parallel technique. It means that you have to again have the left eye for the left image and right eye for the right image. It was a lot of work for of processing, and it's Jean-Luc Dauvergne, who is a journalist at Ciel et Espace, French magazine, the main French magazine, astronomy magazine. We did the processing of the images. Because of the lockdown, he couldn't come with us, so he did all processing from home in Paris. So he lives in Paris. He's a very good planetary imager. He lives in a building in Paris, and he has a balcony where he put Mulan 300, so at a 12-inch telescope, and it's a very good place to have the good seeing, because he's at the 16 or 17th floor, and he has a very often very good seeing conditions. So this is the telescope, 1 meter telescope. You know, it's quite old. It has been used in the 60s to take pictures of the moon to prepare Apollo landing on the moon. It was one of the telescopes used to do that.
Wow.
And so it's really for French astronomers, it's really an historical telescope. Really, it's famous. Even if it's not a very big telescope, it's a 1 meter telescope only. But the site, the Pic du Midi site, sometimes offer fantastic seeing, where you can see the planets in the eyepiece of the 1 meter that almost not move in the eyepiece, almost no turbulence. And it's so amazing to see Jupiter, Mars, or Saturn, or even Uranus, or the moon without any movement. But that not happens every night, of course. But sometimes it happens, and it's one of the most stable sites existing. And this is one picture at night of the telescope. So it's 1 meter again, and we put together here a photo taken in 1986, with a photo of Mars taken at that moment, and now the telescope now, and picture taken now. So it's so amazing, the progress we made with digital imaging since the 80s and 70s, 80s, and other areas. Okay, a little bit back in time again. So in September now, again, it's about Mars, because Mars last year it was the famous planet of 2020. So during 2020, the moon occulted Mars several times. If I remember correctly, there were 2 occultations visible from South America, and one from America, I think, is March 2020, I think, and there was also one in September, early September, visible from both Argentina and Spain. And Spain and Portugal. So I decided to go to Portugal, to go to Lisbon, to fly to Lisbon with my C8, Celestron 8 in the backpack, and a small equatorial mount in the luggage. And I flew to Lisbon for the occultation of Mars of September 6th.
Wow.
So I got this series of images, of course, taken from an area not far from Lisbon. I decided to choose a place where Mars would not be completely hidden. So it was a grazing occultation. So I carefully chose the place to have this grazing occultation, just to keep a little bit of Mars at maximum occultation, and so to get the shape of the moon, dark side of the moon, during the occultation. In real time, it lasted 20 or 25 minutes. And it was also very nice to see. Fortunately, I had in Portugal, I had a very good weather, clear blue sky. It was just before sunrise. So here you can see the map. You see the I flew from France to Lisbon, south of Lisbon, and the occultation was visible south of this line. So I was just on the line here. It was sunrise, just before sunrise. So it was also visible in Italy to the east, but it was visible after sunrise. So in Portugal only it was visible just before sunrise. I have also the video. Okay, the sound. So I took a continuous series of 4 seconds. So it's the video you see is accelerated 100 times. I took series of 4 seconds. So I had about 400 images. Each of them was 4 seconds combination. And so I had to process each of them individually and to register all the 400 images individually, because I could not, you see on the video, Mars is still, and it's the moon which is moving. So I could not register on the moon because I wanted to keep Mars at the same position. And when Mars is hidden, I couldn't register on Mars because the software refused to register on the planet. And so I had to register the 400 images one by one by hand. So it took 2 weekends to do that. But I was so happy to get it, and having no technical problems, good weather, fair seeing. I was happy to take.
Can you comment on how you handle the dramatic exposure difference between Mars and the moon? The moon is so bright. I mean, Mars is bright too, but that's an impressive exposure differential.
Finally, it was one. It was only one exposure for both. So the brightness was quite consistent, and I didn't have to use a separate exposure with a separate exposure time. No, it's one frame. I took, as I said, I took a continuous series of 4 seconds. So in each sequence of 4 seconds, I had about 120 frames at 30 frames per second. So I used the AutoStacker, the famous planetary software AutoStacker, and it worked very well for each 4 second video. Each of the 400 videos, and no, I had no problem with the exposure. Exposure was similar, only one exposure for all, and I did not even have to change the brightness. It was really for every frame. It's one global processing. No adjustment of brightness of the Mars or the moon separately, nothing like that. So it's one frame and one global processing for each.
That's impressive. Thank you.
Okay. So as you know, perhaps because you said it before, I'm used to take a transit of the space station in front of the sun or the moon. And in June 2020, I wanted to try my new 8-inch refractor. So this is the refractor. This is the telescope. It's a 8-inch upper refractor. The brand is CFF, and it's only 20 kilograms, so it's not so heavy. It's lighter than my C14, and so it's not so difficult to handle. I use a refractor for solar transits for one reason. It's because I can use a Herschel wedge. The Herschel wedge, you can see it perhaps on the
How big is that scope?
Yeah.
8-inch refractor?
Yes, 18. It's an 8-inch. Yes, it's a upper triplet refractor, and I use a Herschel wedge. And the advantage of the Herschel wedge is that you can adjust the amount of light going through the Herschel wedge, and so I adjust with neutral filters after the wedge to get maximum brightness. So I could not put the eye. It's too bright for the eye, but it's okay for the camera. And by this way, it's a camera. It's an Olympus camera. It's a EM1. I choose this camera because it works at continuous shooting at 60 frames per second. In RAW, it's not video, it's RAW images. It's a series of almost 60 RAW images at 60 frames per second during 1 second. It's very short, but it gives a lot of frames, a lot of RAW images, and it's the fastest camera. So I use this camera, and I can use it with the electronic shutter at the maximum speed, which is 32,000 of a second. 32,000 of a second.
Wow.
At 100 ISO. So again, I couldn't put the eye in place of the camera.
That's an EM1, EM1X, EM1 Mark II.
EM1 Mark II. Yeah.
That's my
EM1
camera.
Mark II. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And the continuous shooting, as I said, is very fast, 60 frames per second. So there is no Nikon or Canon or Sony camera that is able to work at 60 frames per second. But the bursts only last a bit less than 1 second. So it's extremely short. So of course I could not trigger it visually. So I use a special box made by a friend, which is driven by GPS. It has a GPS antenna. It calculates the time with the signal 1 PPS, 1 pulse per second signal from the GPS signal, and it triggers the camera at the exact instant I have programmed on the little device. And so by this way, I can have 1 second, a bit less than 1 second burst centered on the calculated time of the transit. And so I could.
What telescope is that? What type? I mean, what brand?
It's CFF. It's European. It's made in the east of Europe.
Okay.
And it's a CFF.
ESF. Okay. Thank you.
And optically, I tested it with a friend who has a Shark-Hartmann test device, and optically it was really very good. And you can see, I hope, the transit of of the space station. You can see the details.
Amazing. CFF.
I have a
CFF,
question.
yeah.
That's crazy. Shannon, can we get an 8-inch refractor for the dome?
You're welcome to donate one.
What's that, $20,000 or $40,000?
How do you focus on the sun with no sunspots?
So here is the series of frames. So you see 60 frames per second. So it gives a lot of ISS together side by side. And this is a picture I have taken the day after, June 25, and with more magnification. So I had only a part of the sun. Didn't have the full disk of the full solar disk. And hopefully I had a very, very good seeing. And I got the Crew Dragon and also the robotic arm. You can see the arm here, holding the external palette. So you can see the arm here.
That's amazing.
The station.
Dana was asking a question that I think a lot of us want to know. How do you focus on the sun when there's no sunspots?
Oh, it's a nightmare. You know, it's it's terrible. It's terrible. It's a nightmare. I use the solar limb, the edge of the sun. There is no other solution. On all my telescope, not all my telescope, but all my refractors, I use a gauge, kind of micrometer gauge. And so I get a very precise measurement of the position of the focuser. And I try different position, step by step, let's say 10th of a millimeter by 10th of a millimeter, or even smaller than that, depending on the telescope. And looking at the image, I can determine the best position, but it takes a few minutes. And when the seeing is not good, it's really a nightmare. Yes, very, very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
What is the focal length of that 8-inch refractor? 2,000 millimeters, it said?
It's a f8, so it's a 1,600 millimeters. It's a 8-inch f8. Yeah, and that was for the image. For this image, I was at prime focus. And for the other image with the robotic arm, I used a teleconverter, a 1.4 Canon teleconverter in front of the camera. Okay, and here you got all the series from one side to the other.
Wow.
And the transit lasts, let's say 7/10 of a second probably, and at 60 frames per second. So I have probably 35 or 40 ISS in the series. And again, the seeing was good. I've been very lucky with the seeing. It was very, very good that day, because as you know, during daytime the sun hits the ground, so the seeing is generally worse during the day, during daytime than nighttime. But this time it was good. I will not tell you how many times I missed transits because the seeing was bad and the image was fuzzy. So I didn't count number of times I missed that, but it's a great number of times.
Where they're not all in focus, is that because of the motion of it, or is it just the focus changes from one side of the sun to the other?
No, the focus doesn't change. No, and two, fortunately too, the focus is the same for the sun, for the moon, or for the ISS. It's all same position. All of them can be considered as at infinity,
Right.
and so it's the same focus. Fortunately, yeah. Traveling again in northwest of France, we have quite a famous monument called Mont Saint-Michel, which is a rock at the sea, and I'm sure all of you also have seen and taken picture of Neowise, the nice comet of last year. And I went in July. It was July 2012, and to take this picture of the comet over the Mont Saint-Michel. So again, I have to run along the shore to align the comet with the with the Abbey. And again, of course, it's one shot only. No montage, no assembly, only one shot. I took it with a telephoto lens, 135 Sigma telephoto lens with the Sony camera, and the exposure is about 2 seconds. I think it was just after sunset, and so it was also a nice memory. And in the picture taken just a few minutes later, I had the comet in front of. It's an angel at the top of the Abbey.
Oh my God!
And I got the comet in front of the angel. So again, running along the shore, along the sea, to get those two aligned. And again, it's also 1 or 2 seconds.
What's your favorite planning app? Do you use the Photographer's Ephemeris or Photopills?
I use the Photographer's Ephemeris, TPE.
TPE, yeah.
TPE, yeah.
And TPE had the comet in it too, or how'd you get the comet data?
No, but I used the Stellarium, planetarium software Stellarium, to know where was the comet among the stars, and then I also use Stellarium to have the azimuth of the comet and the stars at different moments of the evening. And I also use Google Earth, because in Google Earth you also have a tool that gives you the direction and the azimuth of when you draw a line in Google Earth, you can have the azimuth, and so I use both. I didn't use TPE that time. I used Stellarium and Google Earth. But this place is particular because you have a very large shore when you can go from east to west, and so you can really move. It's several kilometers long, so you can really. I could really choose the place to take the picture. So it was not difficult to find the right place, and the distance to the Mont Saint-Michel is about 2 kilometers, I think. I could
That's
check.
incredible.
2 kilometers. I couldn't go closer because it's the sea between the continent and the Mont Saint-Michel. There is one you have one road between both, but around the road it's the sea. And again, fortunately, the weather was good. Okay, a little bit more back in time. So in 2019, oops, sorry. I had the eclipse in 2019, in July 2019. For the last eclipse in 2020 in December, we went to Chile. It was quite difficult to travel in December because of lockdown, but we were able to go to Chile for the eclipse of last December. We had good hope because the day before the eclipse, the sky was sunny sky. We also got sunny sky the day after the eclipse, but the day of the eclipse, we had rain all day rain. So we missed this eclipse. And it was even more disappointing because we went to the border between Chile and Argentina in the Andes. And the people at the border, the soldiers, welcomed us. They were very friendly, but they said, "We are sorry, the border is closed and you cannot go to Argentina." And let's say 20 miles to the east, in Argentina, the sky was clear. And on the east side of the Andes, on the Chile border, the Chile side, the sky, the Andes blocked the clouds, and so we had rain all day long. But that's the game with eclipses. It's sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. You have to accept that. But this eclipse in 2019 was successful, and this is taken from Argentina. And in the background of the image, you have the Andes, of course, and before going to Argentina, I remarked that the path of the eclipse was over a lake called La Cuesta del Viento, or the slope of the wind. And so I was afraid to have a wind because wind make waves, and so there could be no reflection of the eclipse on the lake. But fortunately, during almost all the eclipse, the lake was quiet, and I got the reflection, as you see, on the lake, the eclipse on the lake. And at the very end of the eclipse, just before sunset, the wind started to blow, and then the reflection disappeared. And if you look at it carefully, there should be the very last sun here, just before the disappearance behind the Andes. You should have one or two more reflection here, this place. But at that moment, the wind was blowing and there was no reflection. But I got all the rest of the sequence, fortunately, on the lake. And so this was also a good moment. I went there the day before the eclipse to find the best place along the shore of the lake and settle before sunrise in the morning to make sure to have the one of the best places to take those pictures. Okay, and this is a close-up of the eclipse with the partial phase and sunset on the Andes. You have some summits here, very high summits, more than 6,000 meters of altitude. So it's very high, very high place.
Fantastic.
Are you using the Herschel wedge for this so you could see the foreground?
No, for this I used again a Sony camera, a A7R Mark III, and it's a 40 millimeter. It's also a Sigma lens. Now all my lenses are Sigma Art series, and it's taken with a 40 millimeter. And I use a Astro Solar filter sheet. So I use a piece of Astro Solar in front of the lens for partial phase, and I removed it, of course, for the totality. and it's again, it's one scene, one frame. Of course, it's a stack of the totality with the partial phases, of course, but it's global. It's one frame and one global processing too. No multiple processing, no multiple frames. And you can see the reflection on the lake is a bit distorted because of the waves, small waves on the lake.
So you used the Sony camera on just sitting on a tripod. You didn't use a tracker, obviously, because this is
No, yes, tripod. Yes. It's a
And
very
then
yeah.
how frequently did you take the frames, or did you just keep shooting one after another, 3 seconds, 5 seconds?
The totality is one frame only one. I think it's 1 second. I don't remember the exposure time, perhaps 1 second or something. And the partial phases with is every 5 minutes. So
5 minutes. Okay.
5 minutes, yeah.
Was that on a timer, or did you just look at your watch?
Oh, you're looking at the watch. Yes, looking at the watch. Yeah.
Did you use any software for exposure ramping or anything like that?
No, nothing. No. During totality, I changed the exposure time manually from let's say 1,000 of a second to several seconds, and finally I choose the best one, which was around 1 second of exposure. I try to make an assembly of different exposure to have kind of a HDR for the totality, but it didn't work with the landscape. I also had the landscape, I had the reflection, the double reflection on the lake, and processing didn't work really. And so I kept only one frame for the totality, plus 1 frame for each partial phase only. So it's a very simple setup. A DSLR for 40 millimeter lens on a tripod. So we traveled during three weeks in Argentina, visiting Argentina and the Andes in particular. And so I didn't want to travel with a heavy hardware. And so I had just 2 cameras with 2 tripods, and that's all.
Beautiful work.
Another event for which I had to travel, but in Europe, is going back to the space station, is in February 2011. In February 2011, I took a video of the space station. Okay, wait. Okay, so this is the space station, and at that moment, sorry. Okay, so you see here, it's the double image, but it's because you will see it in 3D just later. So you have the space shuttle Discovery that was docked at that moment to the space station. Again, it was in February 2011. Okay, sorry. Okay, so you have I have here in color. I have color the Discovery docked to the space station, and we can see the rear part of the shuttle. We see the engines, the tail, the wings, And here we have two bright spots, two bright lines, which is the bay door, which was open, of course, at that moment. So we have the solar panels, we have some modules, Soyuz or whatever, I don't remember. And here we have the robotic arm, here, like a V. And at the end, we have a small white dot, and it's the astronaut Steve Bowen. She's an American astronaut, Steve Bowen in spacewalk, changing an ammonia pump. And so it was really a surprise, because my goal was to take a video of the space station with Discovery, but I didn't know that there would be a spacewalk, and I discovered afterwards, processing the images, I saw this kind of shape. I see, what is that? And I understood that it was the arm with the astronaut in spacewalk. So it was a nice surprise for me. And I had to drive to Germany. So I put all the telescope in the car again, and drove to east of Germany, because the sky was cloudy over France again. But I didn't want to miss it, and so I drove to Germany. And again, like the video of Mars, you can see it in 3D.
May I ask, what telescope did you use for this?
At that moment, now I use C14, but at that moment it was a 10-inch mid Schmidt-Cassegrain. Okay, so if you can cross the eyes, you will see the space station in 3D. And it's a full passage of the station. You can see it. It seems to rotate. Of course, it doesn't rotate in reality, but it is passing in the sky. It's like an airplane, you know. When an airplane is passing above you, you can see first you see the front of the airplane, and finally you see the back of the airplane. So it's the same with the space station. It seems to rotate during a passage. And so also, fortunately, this good thing for this passage with the 10-inch telescope. The same friend who made the GPS device for solar transits, he took my equatorial mount and modified it, and so now I have a tracking system. The principle is very simple. It's just like auto guiding. I use a separate small telescope. Actually, it's a large viewfinder, with an additional camera, a guide camera, which is connected to the computer. We made a special software to auto guide at high speed. Generally, auto guiding, as you know, is performed at a frequency of let's say 1 second or so. But with this modification, I am able to auto guide at 30 frames per second. So it's real-time auto guiding, and so I can track any satellite or of course the space station, keeping it constantly within the frame of the camera. So I direct, when the space station appears at the horizon, I direct the telescope in this direction. And when the station is visible inside the frame of the guide camera, I push on the button. I have a joystick to drive the mount, double joystick, and I push on the button, and then it locks on the target, and then it constantly tracks the target. I just have to raise my hands and touch nothing, and just look at it, look at the telescope, tracking the target.
Whoa.
I need this.
Incredible.
And you
And,
developed that software yourself, or did someone write it? Is it off the shelf, or you wrote it yourself?
No, it's my friend who made the software. I made a part of the software, which is the loop, the tracking loop, which it's a PID loop. It's a basic PID loop, but he did the major part of the software. He already did. He already made auto guide software, and we did it in 2009. And I met him at this occasion, and I knew him by friends, and I called him, and I said, okay, I would like to track the space station. Do you think it's possible? And he said, okay, we have to change the tracking system of the mount, so we have to change the motors, we have to change the command panel, and we have to modify the auto guide software. He said, okay, it could take 3 months. Actually, it took 2 years of development, modification, and test. Testing was not very easy because I could not test. I could not wait for a single passage of the space station because it's too rare. So I used a laser. I used a second small motorized mount. I put a laser on the mount, and on the wall, on a distant wall, I could direct the laser on the wall, and then have the mount tracking, trying to follow the laser spot on the wall, and so we could make the test and adjust all the tracking parameters and the loop parameters. So in total, as I said, it took 2 years, and but now it works. But it's really a special system. He made a few others for some people. He made copies of this system for other people, especially one American guy who is called Philip Smith, who lives in Manorville. It's east of New York, and it takes a very good picture of the space station with a system which is similar to mine. In 2019, I had a mission in Texas. And so I went to Houston, to the training center in Houston, and I've been lucky to have a tour by Donald Pettit, who gave me a tour of the training center, and I've been able to meet Steve Bowen, and so we discussed a little bit about the picture of the Earth he took from the station, and the picture of him I took from the ground. And so this day I met 3 astronauts: Donald Pettit, Steve Bowen, and also a French astronaut, which is Thomas Pesquet, who is now in the space station again. I went to the space station last month with the last mission with the Crew Dragon Crew 2. Coming back to transit again. So another transit I took in 2010, so 11 years ago already. It was Atlantis. Atlantis was about to dock on the space station, and so I took it just 1 hour before docking together. So Atlantis and the space station. So it was almost once in a lifetime event. And so I knew the time when Atlantis was about to dock with the space station. So I took that. At that time, I had a 6-inch Takahashi refractor. So same quite similar setup. Or 6-inch refractor Takahashi, Herschel wedge. It was not the Olympus camera at that time. It was a Canon camera, but only 4 frames per second. So very few frames. At that moment, it was only 2010. And I drove from Paris to the area of Madrid, in the center of Spain. So it was a journey of, let's say, 1,500 kilometers. But I knew I couldn't miss it. The weather was good, and I could have those 2 spaceships together. A few days after coming back to France, I went through Spain, not Spain, Switzerland. Sorry, Switzerland, and that a few days after, 6 days after, I took this picture, and then Atlantis was docked to the station, and we can see the space station, the Atlantis docked to the space station in the middle of the solar panels. It's a bit slow. That's it. Okay, good seeing too. Luck with seeing that time too. So we see here on the left side between the solar panel, Atlantis docked to the space station. I've been very lucky with Atlantis because in 2009 I went to the Kennedy Space Center to attend to the launch of Atlantis for the last Hubble servicing mission. It was in May 2009, and I took picture. I'm looking for them. Okay, that's it. Okay. So first, it was on May 11th, 2009. So I had the access to the Kennedy Space Center, to the press site of the Kennedy Space Center. So I could take a picture of the launch of Atlantis. It was really amazing to see that, so impressive with the light and the noise. The noise of is incredible with the everything, and so this was on May 11, and the day after, on May 12, I tried to take a picture of a transit of Atlantis in front of the sun. So this is the sun again, and Atlantis here, just here on the right side of the sun, close to the edge. This is my fastest transit. I was not far from the Kennedy Space Center. I was a few kilometers north to Space Center. And this is my fastest transit because the Atlantis was not yet in orbit. It was only 24 hours after launch. And so the altitude was low. It was 250 kilometers only. So it was very fast, and the transit lasts only 1/4 of a second, 0.25 seconds.
Wow.
So it was extremely fast, and I use the same Canon camera, working at 4 frames per second during 4 seconds only. And so I had at that moment I used the radio synchronized watch. and I had only a window of 4 seconds, and I had to center those 4 seconds of burst, and in the middle of the at the middle of the transit, of the time of the transit. So I triggered the continuous shooting, looking at the watch 2 seconds before the instant of transit, and then stopped 4 seconds after, and then, okay, did I get it or did I miss it? I didn't know. So I had to look at there were 60 frames, 4 frames per second during 4 seconds. So it's 60 frames. So I had to look at the 60 frames one by one, and zooming on each frame. And you see on the disk of the sun is very, very small. And so I couldn't see it. I look at all the frames, I couldn't see it. And I took again 1 frame, one after the other, and zooming on the frame and trying to move inside the frame to see if it was somewhere. And finally I found it on 1 frame only one, and this is this one. And you can imagine I was very happy.
How did you get the orbit data of the space shuttle to plan this?
Yes, at that moment, I used a website called CalSky. I used the CalSky. It was made by something on Switzerland or something, I think. And it was very precise, and it had the transit calculation for any satellite. In the past, I also took a transit of the Chinese space station, Tiangong, a few years ago. So again, using CalSky. It's very unfortunately, CalSky stopped. The website CalSky stopped last year, so it's no more available. So now we can calculate transits of the space station with a site called a Transit Finder. But unfortunately, it doesn't calculate anymore any other transit of a satellite. So, for example, if I would like to take a solar transit of the new Chinese station, I couldn't do it anymore.
I watched the Chinese go by last night.
Yes, you saw it too. Yeah, good. So at that moment, CalSky had the transit data for all spaceships. So I just used CalSky, and I didn't make the calculation by myself. I used CalSky to have the transit data and transit path in the surface of the Earth. And this photo went to the communication service of NASA, and it went to the front page of the Times the day after.
That's awesome.
The catastrophe is not me. It's because my daughter said, "Oh, you are a catastrophe." No, that's a different article. It's not the same same thing. And the day after, one day after, I took not far from that place too, Atlantis and the Hubble Space Telescope together side by side just before grapple, a few minutes probably before grappling of the space telescope, of the Hubble Space Telescope by Atlantis. The thing was not good at that moment, so the image is smaller because the thing was bad. So the image was quite fuzzy. I remember that I prepared the day before. I prepared a place where I wanted to sit, and unfortunately there were storms at that moment. So a big storm cloud was coming over that place, and so I had to put back everything in the car and drive a little bit fast. Fortunately, there was no police at that moment. Drive a little bit fast to stop at the edge, under the path of the transit, but at the edge of the cloud, to get this transit. A few minutes after, it was raining, and it rained a lot. I remember it rained a lot over Florida at that moment, and it rained so much that there were flooding in this area. I was at that moment, I was in Daytona Beach, and it was raining so much that there were flooding in the streets. And finally, I missed the landing of Atlantis, because Atlantis landed in California. It couldn't land in Florida because of the very bad weather. So it was the only disappointment of this was that I couldn't attend to the landing of Atlantis at the end of the mission. But anyway, I was happy. I was happy with that. Okay. I can also shown the I can show you another transit of the space station in front of the sun, with the small spot is Mercury. It was in 2016, and I went to the area of Philadelphia to take this transit. I was in a state park, remember, beside the car, and I had something unexpected, something funny. I got also with the transit of the
Plane.
I got the transit of a small plane. So you see, I was in the area of Philadelphia. So this is Mercury. I got a lot of clouds too. You can see the clouds passing. But I had the space station and Mercury just before the clouds became too thick.
This one is a hydrogen alpha.
Yes, hydrogen alpha. Oops.
Because it's not white light. This is hydrogen alpha.
Yes, this is hydrogen alpha. Yes, it's a 4-inch refractor with a Coronado double stack 90 millimeter. It was the transit of the plane.
That's crazy.
You got a lot of all of the stuff inside.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Wow.
You can see the disturbance made by the engines. Here it's completely distorted by the heat of the engine.
It's funny.
And okay, I already shown this moonrise over New York. Also another mission I had. I have also been fortunate to have a mission in Singapore in 2018. So I could take the lunar eclipse. You see the moon here, partially eclipse over the Bay of Singapore, with the famous hotel, Bay Suns Hotel, over the Bay of Singapore. 2 years ago, there was a lot of people. All the the bay was crowded with people looking at the eclipse and photographing the eclipse. And it was just at the moment of the laser show from the Marina Bay Sands Hotel.
Wow.
Well, and this may be the end of the journey, but you may have some questions perhaps or comments for those of you who don't sleep already.
We just
Thank you very much.
speechless.
That's amazing.
Incredible pictures.
Yes,
Thank you.
Do have one question posted from our viewers. It's if you had the option to choose any equipment that could be installed on a cube satellite, which would be accessible to you remotely, what would you put up there?
That's a good question. From
And I think it's that the cube satellite, meaning you can't just get your own ISS.
Well, I don't know. Perhaps, of course, a camera, but what kind of lens or what kind of telescope? I don't know. No, I don't really know. No idea. Sorry. Or a telescope to take photos of the Earth, perhaps, because the Earth is so nice from above. Perhaps a camera to take picture of the Earth, and perhaps a telescope to take high resolution photos of the moon or the planets, because outside the atmosphere it's a dream, because you have no turbulence. Seeing is perfect, and so there will be so many pictures to take without. I cannot imagine a world without clouds and without turbulence. You know what would we do?
Yeah.
we take one picture of Saturn and that's it. Okay, good.
And that's called Arizona, what you're describing.
Yes. Oh yes, good. Also, I'm coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your work is this group of photographers that's on the call. We've been taking pictures like this now for at least 3 or 4 years, and we're just approaching some of your worst work.
Oh no, I'm sure I've seen before my speech. I've seen a lot of very, very nice images, and again, congratulations.
Yeah.
You do something very very nice, and you can be proud of all the images you have shown, and yes, you can really be proud. Yeah.
You're very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if nobody else has any pressing questions, I don't want to keep Thierry too much longer. It's 3:41 in the morning there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait a second. He's an astrophotographer. He's just getting started. I do have one other question. You didn't really show that many deep space objects tonight, like nebulas, galaxies, and the like. Do you shoot those as well, or do you only go for the really, really insanely hard stuff?
I took a lot of them in the 90s, but I can admit that I have to admit that it's a long time that I've not taken the deep sky objects. Perhaps it's too slow for me. You know, I need movement. I need speed.
Yeah, but it's not moving at 17,000 miles an hour. You don't want to take your chances.
Even I can't bear anymore even that lasts more than 2 minutes. Like a total eclipse, more than 2 minutes, it's too long for me. No, I'm kidding. But yes, I will probably take more deep sky images in the future. I'm testing a new camera, which is this one. Okay, it's with the lens, but I can remove the lens. It's a Sigma full frame camera. Sigma lended to me, and it's a 60 megapixel full frame camera, and it's less expensive than the Sony 7R Mark IV, which is also it's a similar sensors, 60 megapixels, and I'm testing it. I took picture of the moon just a few hours ago from between clouds from my garden, and it's a very bit strange camera. It's very small. It's the smallest full frame camera available. No stabilization, so probably for action photography it's not very good, perhaps. I don't know, or handheld or action photography. I didn't test the autofocus, but for astronomy I think it's maybe a good camera. There is no this is the optional viewfinder. Okay, we can remove it. Actually, it's optional, but for astronomy, of course, it's absolutely necessary, because we can adjust the position of the finder, because the screen itself is cannot be moved. So I think it may be a good camera with a very low noise. I measure the noise, and it's lower than Sony sensors. Sony sensors at high ISO is around one electron and something, and this one is less than 1 electron of noise above 400 ISO. So it looks something quite promising, and probably I will try to take some deep sky picture with this camera.
Is that camera astro modified by any chance, or has it got the IR filters on it already, or still?
Sorry, can
Is
you repeat?
that is the Sigma an astro modified sensor?
No, it's not astro modified, but probably can be modified. I have a friend who modifies camera, who removes the filters or replaces the filter with Astrodon filters. I will ask him if it's possible to modify it. Yeah. Yes, because as it is, it's probably quite blind in hydrogen alpha as usual, unfortunately. But I also have a ZWO camera. It's a 6200 camera, full frame camera. So I can also use it for deep sky imaging. So I have to be a little bit courageous and put the telescope in the car, because from the suburbs of Paris, Paris is called the city of lights, but we astronomers hate lights. So I hate Paris, but I have to live in the suburb for my job.
So what is that job, by the way, to be able to support this habit? It's almost as bad as a cocaine habit. What do you do for a day job?
I work in a big electronic company called Thales. It's a company which about 80,000 people worldwide, and I work in a purchase department, and so I travel a lot to visit suppliers. And so we have suppliers worldwide. We have suppliers in Singapore, in USA, in China, and many countries. So this makes me travel and trying sometimes to have some conjunction between some missions and astronomical events, fortunately.
Now you just have to get a transit of the ISS in front of a galaxy.
Yeah, really.
Last year in July or August, I tried to take transit of the space station in front of Mars.
Oh my God!
But you know, the calculation at that moment, we could use CalSky before it stopped. But the calculation in CalSky was very accurate, but not enough to have the space station in front of a planet. And so I got the images, but the space station passed beside Mars and not in front of Mars.
Isn't the ISS in angular size a little bigger than Mars?
Yes, it was one maximum almost 1 arc minute.
Hmm.
1 arc minute. Mars was 20 plus arc second.
Mm.
And when I tried this transit, the space station was 2 to 3 arc minutes from Mars. So they were side by side, but I didn't release it because I really wanted to have the space station in front of Mars, and I couldn't have it. The precision of calculation is very high, but not enough to make sure that there will be superimposed with the.
That would be a very narrow path.
Yes, very narrow. Yes, very narrow. I calculated that I was 200 meters north of the place I should have been to get the transit, but only 200 meters. It's nothing. But for such transit, it's everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we wrap it up there so that you can take a nap?
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. That was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you so
for
much.
your attention, and you're welcome. I hope you enjoyed as I did, because my biggest pleasure is to prepare, and the adrenaline I got with taking the picture. I don't really like processing images. Processing, of course, we have to process the image, but I don't really like that. Staying in front of the computer, I want to stay in the field and wait for the moment, and having the adrenaline coming, and having the pleasure of the moment of taking the picture. So I hope
You do a great job with it.
Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful. Wonderful presentation.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thanks again.